Parking lot OG Kush.
Oh my god.
Woo, parking lot OG Kush.
Right now I have Island Sweet Skunk. That's the name. It is
Okay.
it is a vape. It's 82.06.
Oh.
It's all on a sticker. 82% THC. It's and it's yellow,
Damn.
so I think this is a sativa. Well, it's a vape. I mean, it's not.
You know-
if you had an herb that was 80%, it'd be like science has not created.
Pepper, I want you to say Island Sweet Skunk one more time.
Island Sweet Skunk.
See, it sounds like a Chopin. Doesn't it sound like something Chopin would write?
Movement 2, Island Sweet Skunk.
Movement 2. Exactly.
Concerto for piano.
Zan, I recently dropped off with you. Did I tell you what I dropped off with you?
What's that?
It's the same name as that goddamn movie, Pineapple Express.
Oh, yeah.
That's like a famous one. Well, it's famous enough to name the fucking
it
movie
is the
after
one.
it.
It's
Yes.
the one with the movie. Yeah, exactly.
At this point, weed strains are like craft beer names. They're like they've all been taken, so people are just trying like, fuck, what is not ClownPenisDotFart? That's my the name of
We
my
were just talking about that the other day.
name of my beer.
Penis.
There's nothing left. Does everyone know that sketch? They're trying to get a website, and they're like, the only website left is ClownPenis.fart.
Old SNL sketch, Chris Parnell. It's awesome. ClownPenis.fart.
Jesus.
ClownPenis.fart. Is that the name of this episode? ClownPenis.fart?
Yes.
If they'll let us do it, by all means. If you want to join our digital audience, where can they go, Dragler?
They can go to lastminutepolitics.com, and it's one of those Linktree style sites or card or something where it's got all our links and stuff. It's got our email, the YouTube, the Podbean, the Spotify.
We do
Are
not
we on
do
Apple Crap?
sponsors of any kind.
We don't.
They are the sponsors. If you want to be it's like NPR, but there's no underwriters except for the dollars per month given to us through Patreon. Do it. $1 a month. Get you in here.
Yeah. We also do things like Socialist Movie Nights, which is us just watching stuff that has some kind of message. Whether or not we agree with it is a different matter.
There's not a lot of movies that are explicitly like anti-capitalist. There's really like three big budget ones at least. I'm sure there's tons of college like student films.
Oh, sure.
It's like most of them, I would assume.
I do enjoy watching the movies where we don't agree with the thing. It's like, okay, what were they trying to do here?
All right, so we recently watched The Last Supper, which was put forward by Zanny, and oh my goodness, I had a great time. That is not a perfect movie by any stretch of the means.
No, not at all. Like, is very muddled and mixed at the end. You're like, okay, what's going on? What?
It's a movie I put in the category where it was an experience. It tried a bunch of things.
Yes.
To me, it most certainly did not stick the landing, which is part of what makes it interesting for me.
Absolutely. That is why it's so interesting to me. It's like, why did Ron Perlman have to do this? Why? You know, like stuff like that.
We have a guest with us for today's episode. We have Photonz with a Z. Hello.
Hello.
How you doing?
I'm good. I am living in the woods, loving every minute of it.
Photonz, do you have any idea what movie we're talking about? The Last Supper from the 90s.
No clue. Is it like Meet the Feebles?
Describe it. You two know the movie way better than I do.
Imagine Friends, but they kill people that they don't agree with.
Is
pretty much
even
it.
a plot summary a spoiler? Like, I loved that I had no idea what was happening. Like, until it started happening in the movie, I'm like, oh no, is this where we're going?
Is Googling it cheating?
You can Google it
know.
all if you want at home, but I won't spoil it if people don't want to. But watch it. It's an interesting movie that tries a bunch of fun things.
And
like,
then
it may
they
not
don't
be
know what to do. They don't know where to go with it.
At least I wasn't bored.
Yeah.
No.
What were you
The
saying,
worst
Gregor?
thing a movie can be is boring.
That's true. That's
Well, okay, it can
absolutely
be
true.
worse things than boring, but like from a
True.
how have I spent my time, boring is bad.
Speaking
We're
of
talking
boring,
about the 1995 adaptation of The Last Supper.
it is
with
nothing
Ron
to do
Perlman.
with Christ, but it does have Ron
Yes.
Perlman, so that's probably it.
Ron Perlman plays a would you even say a Rush Limbaugh type? Because he does say "my friends" a lot. Yeah.
He's supposed to be Rush Limbaugh, I think, especially 90s.
Very
that's who-
specifically Rush.
A group of idealistic but frustrated liberals succumb to the temptation of murdering right-wing pundits for their political beliefs.
There
Does that
you
sound
go.
right?
That is
Alright.
exactly, that is the one.
Oh, Cameron Diaz is in it. I have to watch this now.
It's something
Hooray!
else, right?
It's like
what
who the fuck
fuck
are these people
What
featuring
is
Ron Perlman and Cameron Diaz?
This is-
Oh, Mark Harmon's in it too.
yeah.
Mark Harmon's in it. Nora Dunn is in it.
George Costanza.
Oh man.
Yep.
This looks like a winner in my book.
The cameos are far better than the lead actors.
Yeah, it's like, what the
true.
fuck? Bill Pullman's at the door? What's going on?
Bill Paxton.
Bill Paxton? Yeah, Bill Paxton.
Oh,
Bill Paxton, not
my
Bill
bad,
Pullman.
Not Bill Pullman.
You're sitting in the scene and you're like, all right, I'm starting to get used to this acting. And then some other actor will show up for one scene and you go, oh, yeah, this is not good. It ends up with this like wide swatch of skill levels. Like, and that becomes part of the fun though. Like it didn't like deal breaker the movie for me. It's like I
Right,
say,
right.
it's very interesting. I love watch. I very much enjoyed seeing the thing. Because it
I'm glad
swings
you-
between feeling like the taping of someone's like high school, or not even high school, like community theater play, and then like Ron Perlman starts monologuing, and you're like, oh shit, I forgot acting, like this is the scale we're dealing on.
Yeah.
I find
Well,
those.
community theater plays can be good. Just saying.
You know, oh yeah, that's what I mean. Like they're not necessarily even bad. It's just weird if you have you ever seen like community theater or community choir band music, whatever, like local shit, and they'll have, there's like the one person where they are that. I've been to see a couple of local bands where like solo, like jazz band type situations, and they'll have a couple of solos, and then suddenly they'll hit like the second trumpet guy, and they just like blow the doors off, and you're like, oh Jesus, what are you doing here? Like, you know what I'm talking about?
That's my life, Pepper. Just saying.
Yeah, you see that like every day.
Well, not for the last year, but yeah, absolutely. It is crazy. Your second seat, and they're just like, oh, okay, this guy, he's coming up, and you go, oh wow, all right, well,
Like, why are you in this
Why are
band?
you here?
We know Photonz. The way we met was they run lighting, audio, like all kinds of AV stuff at various conventions and events, but also FurCons. That's where I met them at. And so tell us about, what do you do, as much as you feel comfortable saying on a podcast, at least.
Sure, yeah, absolutely. I am a academically trained professional artist. So technically, I am a theatrical design technology person. So with a focus in lighting design, set design, and audio engineering, which means I do theater stuff, basically. So.
And when we called you for the podcast, I didn't have to doubt, like, hey, do you know how to use a microphone?
I mean, you know,
You have it covered.
Yeah, sometimes even I get a little confused when it comes to things, but you know, you just muddle through. That's the secret to life. So yeah, that's the day to day. 2020 was me living as a broadcaster. That was cool. Lots
yeah,
of
what
live
even
streaming.
Because you
Not
work
a lot.
full. That's all live event stuff. So like, what do you?
Yeah, not a lot. It was we built a studio in our studio, so we put up a set essentially and did some conventions that wanted to have a space to do live performances out of our warehouse, which was really nice because I didn't have to go anywhere.
Yeah, you're usually a travel person where you travel to the show. Like you don't just when's the last time have you ever had a job where you got to just like sit at a theater for months, years?
Not for months, but for a few weeks. So those are great. A lot of my background in like actual theater is with children's theater. So I've worked for about, I'm going to say 5 or 6 different children's theater groups in my local area. And at times they would, you know, because it's a nonprofit children's theater, they'll let you sit and have the space for a little less than what would be for a normal touring performance company. So you have a little more lead time, a little more leeway to sit and be there. And it's really nice. You get to really enjoy and take your time and really put on something special for the kids.
Hi, I'm Dragor, and you're listening to Last Minute Politics. With me today is Pepper Coyote,
I'm Pepper.
Zan,
Hey, how's it going?
And our guest, Photonz with a Z.
Hello.
We've got a bunch of stuff to talk about today, and I'm going to start with Pepper.
And I'm going to start by asking Photonz about their recent life event. I don't want to spoiler alert the thing. Like, all right,
okay,
everyone.
I'm an asshole because I had Photonz on for Doom, so my brain is skipping ahead to like what has happened since then. And I'm like, oh, not everyone is caught up on that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so my partner and I, we just had a little boy, and he is going to be 6 months old in about 2 weeks.
Yay. So how's that been? That's like a very recent development for you. Like,
So yeah, it was really hard at first. So our son was born 2 months early. When my partner's water broke early, we had to go to the hospital right away, of course. So having a child during COVID was an experience I would never wish on anyone. Usually, even if your kid is early, you have all the support of family and friends and everybody around. You know, people are bringing you things, taking care of you, being there to help out mom and dad. But because of COVID, it was basically you were allowed one person, so me and my partner. Yeah, and no one was allowed to come visit. No one was allowed up into the maternity ward. So it was my partner and I for about 10 days in a 10 by 10 room, which was it helped our relationship a lot at the end, but it was definitely very trying. So
10 days just following one of the more, to understate, stressful experiences that humans can go through, added on to global pandemic. But hey, the good news is, to spoiler alert, everything turned out fine, and we've survived.
Yes, yeah, he's super healthy. So he was born kind of small, 4 pounds 10 ounces, and then now 6 months later he's like 2 pounds overweight. He's a chubster. It's awesome.
Yay.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah, so he's super happy too. So we couldn't be more proud, and he's a ginger too, Pep. So you'd love him.
Well, we'll see if
I'm
that
also a
stays.
ginger when I don't shave. Yay, gingivitis.
Right?
Concealed ginge.
You got a lot of ginge here.
Everyone told me that my father's hair was red until he was like 1 or 2, but there also is no hard evidence of that. I don't think like no one has produced a picture, at least as far as I can tell. So I'm curious. I guess there's always a shot that like people's red hair can just go away. Even mine is darkened since. And I'm like, no, please.
That was a thing apparently with me. I had red hair turned blonde and then dirty brown. So
yeah, right. It's just
That
weird.
happens.
Are we all gingers then? Talking?
no.
At some
I'm just-
point.
Wow.
Well, at some point, I guess. Yeah.
I'm reading Beastars, and the fucking wolf dude's fur just changes color, and I'm like, that's so unrealistic. I'm like, wait.
Wait a minute. No.
I know humans who just fucking change their hair color. So.
Well, do you get more blonde in the summer too, Pep?
It's hard to tell because I don't get the sun exposure because I just have to hide from the sun like a crab. What? Do crabs hide from the sun? Why did I?
Yeah, let's just say they do. Why not?
It's because I'm red like a crab, I guess. I have to get away from the sun, or I'm always wearing
They
hats.
come out for the crab rave.
such.
Yeah,
My freckles just get darker. So from a distance now, I
Yeah.
look like I'm tan. And as you get closer, nope.
as a theater person in the summer, people are like, "My God, you're transparent. Do you go in the sun?" And I go, "No, never."
I don't want skin cancer. No.
I'm gonna stay away from the dang thing. We here have an agenda, and I would like to allow my agenda to drive my line of questioning because, hey, this is last minute politics. So having I know a ton of people in the world who just straight up have said, like, I won't be able to have a kid, or that's out of the plans because of just what the economic and material conditions of living in America are right now. And I want to sneak into that or roll into that, like the nougat of me bringing that up is a lot of times we end up talking about, like, you go on the left or whatever, it's kind of like lifestyle driven, where it ends up being, oh, I want rights to live this way, to get away from what is usually considered traditional conservative nuclear family type life. It's usually also tied into that. But I want to make the point that even if you as an American want to have husband, wife, child, white picket fence, the conditions created under our economic system, under our current form of capitalism, also make that impossible for the same reasons. It's that because of where we are, it is extremely difficult to live what kind of life you want, unless the kind of life you want is you and 3 other roommates packed into an apartment going to work at Amazon every day. If that's the life you want, it's very easy to live. That life is right there for you.
We know birth rates are falling here, and they're not falling just in the States or with the people who vote blue. It's falling universally.
It's people
The
just
younger
do
you
math.
go, like the less yeah. So, it's not like this is a political thing or even a complete conscious choice. Like, the situation is seemingly being forced upon everyone.
If you want to live the traditional American conservative lifestyle, family values, blah, blah, even doing that has been made nearly impossible for tons and tons of people, or at the very least, very difficult. You think that you would end up with this, like a nanny state for like, oh, you have a kid with, like a straight couple with kid, here's just a bunch of free money, but we don't do that either. We don't help anyone unless you're of a certain like richness or lucky enough that your job does the thing. People with higher incomes tend to end up with those benefits, but I digress. So I guess Photonz, the relevant information here is like, how has that been for you? What can you speak of for this? I know you have not had your son for very long, but what's it been like?
Well,
what help do you desire?
I would say that, first off, I say thank goodness for the social safety net we do have here. Because, without it during the pandemic, for lack of better terms, I would have been fucked. So
I also agree. Me
Yeah.
too. But continue.
Yeah. My wife and I, we both lost. My partner lost her job during the pandemic as well. So there was a while where it was if there would have been no safety net for us, we would have been. There would have been nothing. We would have had no income whatsoever. So it was real scary for a while. So thank goodness for that. But what I've found so far, having a child, is that there's no way, absolutely no way, with the two of us being employed, that we could even afford daycare. With the two, we're fairly well educated, white Americans, Caucasian Americans, and even with our education and decent jobs, if we had to pay for childcare and didn't have family to rely on, and both didn't have jobs that said, yeah, sure, no problem, bring your kid to work, we would love that. We're really lucky because of that. But if we didn't have that, and, when we first started looking into daycare, we were looking at, $500 to $1,000 plus a week. And, that's pretty much close to what we were making. So, it's crazy. Yeah. So we decided before we knew that grandmas would help out and both of our jobs would say, yeah, sure, bring the kid in. And we both know that's really atypical. That we were, my partner was just going to not work. And not because we want to live the traditional American, white picket fence, mom stays at home. It was because
Single income family.
Yeah, exactly. Single income family. It was because it didn't make any fiscal sense whatsoever to have her working. And
you're
now,
in a situation where you're essentially the Ronald Reagan poster situation of like us and we have our degrees and we are professionals working like full time, and this is the situation still.
Yeah, still, exactly. The inflation in comparison to the 70s is astronomical. If you look at the cost of everything and the way wages have just not kept up, there's just no way. Not that I have any specifics on that. I'm just generalizing here. So, but what we've run into is that without help from our family, and help from having essentially really lenient, liberal, specialized jobs where people go, yeah, no problem, you can bring the kiddo. There's just no way that we could. There's no way we could have afforded childcare and still kept the lights on in the house. We would have had to figure something else out. Move in with our parents, or and as a pushing 40 person, I really don't want to do that. I don't know about you guys.
All right, the first planned topic. Pepper is just so wonderful and wants to take care of everyone involved in our great equal representative democracy. Pepper, what did you learn recently when you checked in on the Senate Democrats?
Well, it's hard to take notes on this because it changes every day, but I just want to bring up the thing I'm sure everyone's aware of. But we keep hitting places in the Senate where the Democrats are trying to do things, and let's track how they're going. The biggest one most recently is the Biden infrastructure bill, and by the time this is edited, maybe things will have already changed. But we've gone from Biden says, okay, 2-point-something trillion, and it's going to include not only infrastructure in the traditional sense, like water lines and pipes and bridges and roads, but also, look at this, child care. Government paid for child care, things for climate change, worker right things. Because he's arguing, look, we are the human infrastructure, and look, and I agree, if you're going to treat us like cogs in the machine, at least polish up your fucking cogs. Don't make them pay for their own.
Add
oil
lube,
over
damn
here.
it.
Exactly.
Don't waste energy.
I need some help so we can keep cranking your fucking economy along for you. None of you do any work. So the whole drama has been we got to eliminate the filibuster so we can shove through anything. Biden keeps saying, I don't want to blow over the filibuster because I want to get bipartisanship. And a lot of Democrats say they don't want to get rid of the filibuster. They'd rather do bipartisanship. So now we have the gut your bill of everything good to try to get it passed, to try to get Republicans to vote for it. And then 0 Republicans vote for it anyway, and then the Democrats pass the shit version of the bill with no Republican votes. And that seems to be the pattern, and it's just repeating itself again. So we started out with all those nice things I was talking about. Let me see. I'm looking for these. I had some bullet points of what they pulled back out. It included 300.
You should have sent me the bullet points.
312. Well, this shit changes every hour. 312 billion going to transportation, 109 billion into roads and bridges, 66 billion for passenger and freight rail, 49 billion public transit. It says only 15 billion towards electrical vehicle infrastructure, electric buses, trains, and then it goes on to say stuff they pulled out would be the child care and worker rights provisions I was talking about before. Essentially, the amount of spending was cut in more than half, if I'm not wrong.
Well, and at this point, I have a fundamental problem with funding going anywhere because, as the key piece there, without worker protections and without increasing minimum wage, the abuse continues. It's going to create jobs, but it's not going to create livable ones. So what's the point?
Biden acknowledged Thursday that to approve his plans to expand childcare and education, he will have to, quote, fight like heck, because they want to pass it through reconciliation. That's what we're being fed right now, is that, no, we're going to do this compromise one with the Republicans, and then we're going to do all the rest of our shit through reconciliation. And I'm like, yeah, but they can hear you talking right now, so how does that plan work? I can hear you talking right now. So they're just going to go, well, why would we vote for that one? Because he said you're going to do the thing. Why is he acting like he's dumb? And he knows this. Everybody fucking knows this, but they have to pretend that we don't get it. Get every Democrat to do it through reconciliation if it gets done. My party is divided, but my party's also rational, Biden said. If they can't get every single thing they want, but all they have in the bill before them is good, are they going to vote no? I don't think so. And I'm like, I would point to recent votes and say, about 2 of them will, and you need every single one of them. So, sorry, Zane, what were you going to say?
Oh, I was just saying, basically restating what you're saying, in that how can you even claim to reach for bipartisanship when they don't vote for any of it?
That's false.
What the? It doesn't make any sense.
It's just a farce.
Yeah, absolutely.
It is. It's beyond being lied to. This is why the term gaslit is used a lot, especially I learned about gaslighting through abusive relationships, and holy shit, my relationship with my goddamn government sure is abusive. Because, he's saying this full well knowing what's going to happen. It's beyond being lied to. It's being told what the situation is when it clearly won't be, and the entire media machine runs with it. How do you combat that? Because, like, I recently expressed, Zan, I'm kind of curious, and Pepper and Photonz too. When is recently a realization you had that you are, in fact, still susceptible to propaganda? Mine was, I forget which bill it was at this point because it's been so much, but sometime around either the not paying out the $2,000 for stimulus checks or another one that's just in, minimum wage. It was an easy slam dunk, or no, not minimum wage, I'm sorry, debt forgiveness. The Democrats and Biden argued themselves out of doing anything, and I'm sitting there going, but I believed you when you said you want votes, and it doesn't overall cost the private friends of yours money. You can just erase the federal debt, basically make a shit ton of Democrat voters for a very long time, and like directly, it doesn't take bipartisanship. You can just do this, make a shit ton of lives better, and get the votes you need in 2 years just solidified and done. And I bought into that what they want is that. And it isn't.
Well, Photonz...
So, like, that was a wake-up moment for me of, like, I bought into that propaganda.
Photonz, you're a person who is directly affected by one of the things they pulled out. We're all directly affected because they also pulled out a ton of climate change stuff. But we were just talking about how like insurmountable the bill to pay for childcare is monthly for most people. Of, you know, if you're making under 6 digits, you're probably not going to pay for it. So, like, what do you think? Because I mean, I don't know how you vote, but I assume you aren't a Trump voter. So, like, what do you think about this? How does this?
I think it's just the way politics have been since the Obama era. I mean, if you look at what Obama did at the beginning of his presidency, trying to reach across the aisle when he had, majority, and then as soon as he didn't have majority, he started going for the throat. I think there's a lot of, I mean, this might sound a little tinfoil hatty, but there's a lot of interests on both parties that behooves them not to have any progress. You know, it's like the status quo allows them to just keep making money as politicians. So I agree with you 100% that they're basically cutting all the good stuff out and leaving absolutely nothing but, a watered down bill. But at the same time, I mean, where are we going with it? Is it going to be able to support people? I mean, I don't know. That's for, I just don't know.
One thing I was going to say is their primary goal is to get reelected. And a lot of times what that means is just reinforcing the same shit. And that's why we get the same shit, So that's.
The people who are very rich now make money on how things are now. So why would you change it?
I guess my challenge to that is, and we saw it blatantly once before. If the goal is to get reelected, even from establishment Democrats, they lose elections constantly. And we saw it big time with, not just all the fucking time. In particular, I'm pointing out when the Tea Party movement happened, and then the Republicans and the ruling, the rich people co-opted that. And we're watching it happen again in real time with all the QAnon stuff.
Right.
So, like, this is why when I say, like, I bought into propaganda in that they want to be reelected, I don't think that's true because they also don't do anything that, to me, as a layperson, watching elections happen and watching the party, like, I would say the Democrats shoot themselves in the foot, but they clearly don't see it that way because they don't change, right? So, like, my question, Zan, do you have an experience like that? It could be recently, it might be longer ago, where you just had this gobsmacked realization of, well, I at least thought they would do insert thing here.
Yes. I mean, everyone was disappointed by what Obama did, or what accomplished. Even when you when you followed and saw all the obstruction along the way, we all saw that, like, a lot of things could be done more than just waving your hands and say, well, that's all we can do. And we're seeing a lot of that now. And that's why we're all fucking nervous now, seeing, the echoes of Obama, and that's all we can do. And then what that leads to.
We've tried nothing and we're out of ideas.
We've tried half measures and it just leads to some fascist asshole rising up again.
Yeah.
You essentially hope that these kind of things can shake people out of the cycle, because I mean, the four of us saw the cycle. We all were kind of there for it with Obama, because we're like, oh, he's going to take away our debt and he's going to do this and that. And then when that didn't happen, and now, like you said, we're just seeing it happen again. I don't know what makes some people see the pattern and decide to try to break out of it, and some people go just fully defend every single thing that the Democrats. Because I have several friends who will just repeat the talking points at me, and they just fully are like, yes, that is. There are simple reasons why they cannot do the thing, even though you are telling to me that is wrong. Like, they just don't. They won't even hear it. I'm hoping
to a certain extent, to admit to that means you are utterly helpless in a system that is not just comfortable with you dying, it's going to encourage suffering before you do.
Well, I actually have a specific moment if we want to talk about succumbing to propaganda, and that was during the Obama administration when he told everybody to go back to school. So I did. I went back to school. And I studied for the job that I already had to get a college education in it. And, you know, that made me feel good. But, you know, when the pandemic happened, it really felt like a huge dick in the eye saying, oh, yeah, you know that thing that, you know, the government said, go back and study so you can do it. Yeah, don't do that. Just don't do that. So, I mean, obviously there's reasons for safety and keeping people, you know, out of harm's way from a really contagious virus. But at the same time, it really did feel like, oh, okay, well, no, just don't. What we said, nah,
It shows that the institutions just aren't there to help anybody. Or should I say, the institutions are there to help a very specific number of people. We all saw that article of these companies made these many billions right next to, and the general American public lost that same number of billion. Like, they just scooted it from the poor, desperate people who could not work and suddenly were forced to order shit online, up to the couple of companies who just fortuitously owned all the online infrastructure to make shit tons of money off of this. And this kind of situation happened previously in America around, like, I think it was World War II. People who were profiteering off of shit being like, if something is scarce because war, so then you just overcharged for it, or whatever the 1940s equivalent of Amazon shittery was. They got ass blasted afterwards by the government, though. They were like shut down and like their companies gone, like not like a fine. They were dismantled as companies in retaliation for that in like the New Deal afterwards. That shit is absolutely not going to happen now. So nakedly, we're just looking at, wow, the government does not care. They've made it so you must work to live. And now that we're in a situation where you could not work, they did not, hey man, we'll do you a solid and just like basically pay your salary till we're out of this. And the money they did give us is hugely successful. Like, every economist is like, this was great. Like, this definitely helped all of America, and it was a great idea, and we should do more of it.
But Pepper, they can't act like they could always do that. They can't. They have to act like this is a huge thing.
That means
do.
Socialism is possible.
I know, it's just so
UBI
overwhelmingly
what?
good. What other left ideas might have good effects on even the shitty the number go up aspect? It's even good for that.
I'll tell you what propaganda I fell for is when I thought they'd just like get out the full checks and not just do some stupid math bullshit. But like, no, you just said you just fucked it up. I couldn't believe they fucked up a layup so hard. Is basically it.
Photonz, did you get your Biden letter where they explained to you like a child how they gave you $2,000 before? Did you get that letter?
I got the Donald Trump one.
Oh, I got a letter from Biden saying you're welcome for the $2,000, where it said, see, we sent you $1,200, and then somebody, there were $600 before. We won't talk about from where, and that plus that equals $2,000. You're welcome. And there was a whole letter just telling me that.
No, I never got that one. I didn't know that it even existed. Now I have to Google it.
Who did it go to? It was like from the IRS. I'm like, why are you spending money on that?
Yeah.
Because they can't just. That's something I always wonder is like all this money is spent on propaganda and sending things out to people. Couldn't we just have that money? Couldn't we just
Yeah,
use
just
that for
do
other
it.
things?
Just send me the money. Well, that's like the healthcare conversation. It's like all this money we spend on the insurance companies. Couldn't they just spend that on the doctors?
Well, we
Yes.
knew we were in trouble with the insurance companies when Blue Cross went private. I mean, there was like as soon as Blue Cross stopped being a nonprofit, I was like, oh, this is gonna get fucking weird.
The reason we can't change is because the people who currently make shit tons of all the pharmaceutical people and people who make money off of how healthcare is don't want it to change, so it won't. People who make money off of how the prison system is don't want it to change, so it won't. And Democrat and Republican becomes like it's, what does that even mean? They both keep that way. They both want they both want prisons. They both want more cops, and they say that explicitly. So the only way I can get my mind to wrap around it is to get Marxy and remind myself, all right, Republicans and Democrats both represent bourgeois interest only. They only represent the interest of the owners, the people who are ruining the world literally. And they get to keep it. Like, I don't know. That's who they represent.
Democrats let the populist things slip out every once in a while, like when it gets too overwhelming. That's about fucking it.
Well, didn't Trump run on a populist platform? Like technically,
Yeah. Well, obviously, it's true. It's true.
And he didn't deliver either.
Well, speaking about gaslighting, let's just leave that one. Yeah, right.
Mainstream Minute. Gaslighting. Donald Rumsfeld is dead. Hooray. And we're going to hear about how great he was.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Oh, we're going to
hear revisionist histories of the Iraq War and the Bush administration. Just you wait.
How many days till Biden calls him a patriot and a great man?
Right?
If it hasn't happened already yet, I'm sure it will.
He already tweeted that shit, bro. Yeah.
I'm sick of hearing, like, oh, my friends on the right. What the fuck? Why?
Rumsfeld was like architect of the current ongoing various Middle East conflicts and all kinds of. He's like
The Wikipedia page describes him as the most powerful Secretary of Defense to have happened, and it's like, why do they name the damn thing that does the exact opposite of what the name is? Secretary of Defense. Well, we're gonna murder a bunch of Middle Eastern people.
Drager, we had the Department of War until the U.S. got mad about its image and changed it to the Department of Defense. Or the Interior, I think it's called now, right? That's the Department of Interior.
Probably.
Used to be the Department of
so.
War. It was just called the War Minister, and we had a War Minister, and they're like,
George Carlin's rolling in his grave.
Bit on the nose.
Give me simple, direct language. Yeah, they wanted.
Okay, I have the actual mainstream minute here that I do want to talk about. The Bill Cosby ruling.
There's been
the gut
Bill
reaction
Cosby
in a lot of people that there's a legal thing going on here. I am not a lawyer. As far as I'm aware, none of us on here are lawyers. So what am I about to say are the things I have read through lawyer people on Twitter and other articles. So Bill Cosby, a thing was overturned, and it ended up like not an outright acquittal or anything. But long story short, the evidence they used to put him away was given during a different thing going on where there was no jail consequences going on. So there was basically a deal where he admitted to being a piece of shit, human garbage rapist. But the way the law is structured is such that if you're operating under that kind of deal, that can't subsequently be used to put you away. So it's like the Fifth Amendment thing of there is a context where you can say a thing that's essentially self-incriminating, but you are protected from that being used against you. That is why this happened. That it happened to someone who is a known and proven rapist is very unfortunate. It's the Twitter account Pope Hat that gave me the insight to this. It's not that this conclusion happened is wrong. It's more that you have to have a shit ton of money and resources to be able to use it. There are countless people who are innocent in jail that could use this mechanism to be free, but do not have the resources to make it happen.
Yeah. It's a way that the bourgeois, the ruling class, which I know Cosby, you get to a point where Jay-Z is not working class anymore. He has a fucking empire. LeBron James started out by selling his labor, but now he just owns things. He is a brand. Bill Cosby he owns being Bill Cosby. He's People with enough money.
I'm not comfortable with that phrasing. Bill Cosby owns being Bill Cosby. Like, yes, he does, and that means he's a rapist. They're like, ew.
Well, I mean, like, that's how he gets his money is by, like, continued profit off of the thing. I don't know. But yeah, it's almost like an inverse Free Britney movement thing, because you could say the exact same thing about her exploitation, but her, I believe, she is the victim in this situation, where the only reason anybody gets to hear about any of this is because she used to be the biggest pop star on the planet and has still had some like hits even in the last few years. So luckily she's getting some kind of attention. How many people are just trapped in our shitty legal system and can't buy their way out? The DA and the Cosby thing says Cosby was found. It's just a good summary. Like that. Cosby was found guilty by a jury and now goes free on a procedural issue that is irrelevant to the facts of the crime. Like,
yep.
Like Drager said, I don't know the specifics, but that's it. They got out on a technicality that in no way was like he did less of a rape.
Well, and like the technicality really is my understanding of the technicality is it's framed in that if you have a deal in terms of you are charged, you are going through court things, and the state basically makes a promise and says to reach some kind of justice, you are protected from X if you say Y. And he did, and then they, in a roundabout way, went back on that. So, like, regardless of whether the person is innocent or guilty, that's bad if they can just immediately turn around and go, nope, fuck you, you said a thing, you're going to jail forever. Like...
Damn.
It's one of those where it's unfortunate that the worst of the worst is used as the test to bring light to the situation, but that mechanism is a good thing to have. The justice part is to get that in the hands of every single person who should have been freed already, but hasn't been able to use it.
Well, it falls down to the laws for thee, not for me situation. I feel.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, as
if it requires money and sorry, go ahead.
I was just say as somebody who's actually met Bill Cosby in a work setting, the guy was not kind. Just throwing that out there.
Oh no,
there are so many stories of that.
Yeah,
he was
he's a weird control freak,
rude dude. Just saying.
Next thing, Zanny, we have motherfucking statues.
Motherfucking statues.
Look, the Democrats are getting something done. Kind of.
What are the kids watching? Is that what we're going to call this?
It's a tweet from NBC News, and it is in the form of an update. U.S. House votes 285 to 120 to remove Confederate statues from public display in the Capitol, as well as the bust of Chief Justice Roger B. Taney, who wrote the 1857 Dred Scott decision. 67 Republicans joined Democrats to advance the bill.
You want something done? Have we got a symbolic gesture for you? We're the Democrats and some Republicans.
Photonz, have you seen the Falcon and Winter Soldier miniseries?
Yes. So, yes, this all reminded me of
no, I haven't,
Falcon and Winter Soldier.
I just had a kid. I see a lot of cartoons. So ask me about
kind
Disney
of a cartoon.
Plus.
Same. That's all I watch, but I don't have a child.
So, Zanny and I saw it. So, Zan, if you want to give like the context and summary of what are the libs watching today?
So I had to, and when I saw this news story, I had to think of Falcon and Winter Soldier because it's always a symbolic gesture with the fucking statues. You take down statues, you put up statues. You don't actually do anything. You just do some shit with statues. So here in Falcon and Winter Soldier, let's just say someone was done wrong for a long time. What was the extent of what they did to him? I know 30 years in jail, right? Right,
not just jail, but tortured and experimented on. Basically, spoilers. Spoiler warning for Falcon and Winter Soldier
What,
if
for
you haven't
Bucky?
seen it.
Everybody knows Bucky's backstory.
Not Bucky. It is discovered or revealed as a major plot point in this and makes for the worst ending of anything I've seen that there was the first black super soldier that was not only hidden, but was jailed and experimented on for 20, 30 years.
Oh, are they doing like a
Which is-
Tuskegee experiment parallel?
Yes.
Oh, so a super soldier like Captain America style, but they're black, so they got Tuskegee experimented. Tuskegee
Yes.
shit was when they intentionally infected a bunch of people with what was it? What venereal disease? It was an S. Syphilis. They gave a bunch of black people syphilis and lied to them and said it was something else, and that went on for a real long time and only ended recently. Continue.
So Zan, how is that situation made right in Falcon and Winter Soldier?
Basically, at the end, we see this wronged. We see this wrong righted, quote unquote, when we are brought this person this has been done to.
They give him a Chewbacca medal.
Oh, even worse, he gets a big fucking gold statue of like, this is what this person did and this is how awesome they were.
They didn't
It's like
change a policy to make sure that thing would never happen again.
Nope, just a statue. Just this person was
yeah.
awesome and sorry.
No reparations.
They didn't give him a big ass
Nothing.
check and all of his family members.
Zan, what are the antagonist group called in this series?
The Flag Smashers.
What is their mantra? What is their saying?
One nation, one world, I believe, or some shit like that.
One world,
Oh.
one people.
One world, one
One
people.
world,
right.
one people.
And,
So the bad guys
and
want
Pepper,
peace
they
among
hate,
Earth.
They hate borders as well. They mentioned that right away.
Oh,
Yeah.
so being
and they're-
anti-border also makes you a villain. Okay.
And their leader is Carly with a K, like KarlyMarcks.
Carl.
I swear to God, that was intentional. I swear to fucking God.
I'm so
Here comes
happy.
KarlyMarcks. She's got red hair.
All right, if ClownPenisDotFart doesn't work as a title, CarlyMarcks should be in our title
CarlyMarcks.
somehow.
MARCKS. Carly Marks.
It's the party to the people, guys. Come on.
And I'm thinking of iKarlyMarcks.
iKarlyMarks.
Make that Photoshop for this.
Before we swing off Winter Soldier too far, I just want to address the main thrust of the story is like the blip is back and we have all these resources. We're getting there, but just people have to be patient.
Oh, not just that.
Not just
So,
that.
like, the key point, they don't show it, which, is obvious, but apparently during the fight... All right, so Thanos snaps and half of all life in the universe vanishes, and then it's 5 years later when Tony Stark, the rich white man, undoes it. And what is conveyed in this show is during those 5 years, the world came together. People were taken care of. Borders were going away. Paradise on Earth was happening. And then half the people came back and all of these old power structures came back.
What if that show was
Yeah.
just that and then the bad part never happened? The other people came back and like, oh, wow, we changed all these policies so our world is more just. You get to live in it now. I'm like, cool. And then it's like, end of show. Roll
Yeah,
credits.
but that would tell the entirety of media's opiate of the masses population that you can, in fact, have a better world.
So it just says overpopulation is the actual thing that's holding us back as a species. Really? That's what they went with? Like, actually, overpopulation is a problem.
They basically doubled down on Thanos was right.
Oh my god. Hey,
Oh,
just so
yeah.
listeners know, overpopulation is BS. They bring it up every couple of decades. A new philosopher will have a big brain moment like, there's too many people. We should use that to kill everyone. But not me though. Never the person who says there's too many people. I can have as many kids as I want. Okay, anyway.
Yeah, there's a lot of weird things in the show about just like, yeah, America, we did a lot of weird, bad shit, but we're trying. We're always doing we always try to do the right thing or something. It was weird. It was like, yeah, but Captain America was really nice. I was like, what?
Hey, you have to
Doesn't-
have a roommate.
doesn't seem right.
This shall not stand. Overthrow the government. I preferred when people were just homeless. That was better.
Yeah, those were better times. Simpler times. Better, simpler times.
All right, I guess it'll be my topic. I thought we weren't going to have time for it, which is why I put mine last. But fuck it. Here we go.
Go for it.
We constantly, everyone talks about the algorithm, us included, in particular, the Twitter algorithm, the YouTube algorithm, anything that has to do with search or suggestion. and is terrible, or as scary as that is, as far as like bubbles and confirmation bias, Facebook especially, there are different applications of the algorithm that are even more nefarious. So Amazon, for their flex delivery workers, hires and fires people based on an algorithm with little to no human intervention or oversight.
Are you fucking
I have this
kidding me?
article from Engadget. I don't know if they're the ones that actually wrote it or if it's like a resourced thing, but I've got a couple of things I'm going to read from it here. So the system basically uses a weighted algorithm. The intent, if you're giving benefit of the doubt, is that based on the growth and shrinkage of delivery requirements in any particular area, you scale up and scale down your fleet as necessary to maintain your 2-day delivery window. But as part of doing that, you essentially have to have what's commonly called a fitness function, a way to say, one, whether or not you need a worker or need to reduce a worker, and then two, how do you pick which workers? So here are some examples of what happens in that. One worker said her rating, ranging from fantastic, great, fair, or at risk, fell after she was forced to halt deliveries due to a nail in her tire. She's succeeding in boosting it to great over the next several weeks, but her account was eventually terminated for violating Amazon's terms of service. She contested the firing, but the company wouldn't reinstate her. Another driver was unable to deliver packages to an apartment complex because it was closed with the gate locked and the residents wouldn't answer their phones. In another building, an Amazon locker failed to open. His rating also dropped and he spent 6 weeks trying to raise it, only to be fired for falling below a prescribed level. If any driver feels wrongly terminated, they feel there's not much recourse. You have to pay $200 to dispute any termination, and many have said it's not worth the effort. Holy fuck.
Yeah.
We live in the dystopian present. It's
That's
now.
fucking crazy,
it's
man.
Right now. It's all happening. And if we don't fucking form the line of the everyone versus the like 6 people doing this to us,
The fact that the biggest companies doing this in the algorithm is like horrifying, obviously. Yeah.
So I guess as far as my topic to talk about, because we all agree and understand how fucking nightmarish it is, and short of a general strike and outright eliminating these things, here's my primary question for this topic. Automation is not going away and is only going to continue to increase. And one of the things where automation can, like, if we all had a safety net and working a flex job is just how you got added bonus benefits, this wouldn't be as
fine.
It wouldn't be
That
as
is
big
like
of
a
a deal.
lemonade
It would
stand.
literally
Literally,
be.
I think Andrew Yang's Hail Mary is because he's a capitalist that saw the tea leaves and was like, listen, motherfucker, people are going to be out of work because of automation. Here it fucking comes.
And they're going to kill you. They're going to pull
Yeah,
you out of
yeah,
your mansion
basically.
and fucking kill you.
Yeah, exactly.
So, before we get to socialism and a proper safety net, my what-if question is, what if we apply what happened with consumer protections to banking and credit agencies the same way to algorithms? What would change, or how would the algorithm change, and would it be okay or not if actual accountability were in play? So, I'll start. Let's say Amazon, Google, everyone is allowed to continue to use their AI tool assists, which is really what they are. They're decision assistant makers, and sometimes they just let them do it. But what if you had serious repercussions if a fuck-up happens? What if every one of these people let go could contest for free, and it would cost more? It would cost more to Amazon if they were let go unfairly than justly. Like, that's kind of the what if I wanted to play with.
I don't want to like undercut the direction you're going. I want to let's do like one removal of situation just so I can apply this also to how I don't want to just say, well, in the future or in the civilization I want, these jobs wouldn't even exist and Amazon wouldn't even be a company, because that's just like a non-answer. So let me expand that to like, this is an algorithm that does kind of management of people, if I can widen to that, like personnel decisions, who should be working where and when. Let's say we take away the heinous "you're fired because you lost a star" because we're all living Black Mirror right now. We'll take out that aspect and say it's just for like who goes to what job and that shit. I think at some point we are people, and managing people needs to be done by people, or I think weird creepy shit will just like start popping up. Even if we have a sufficiently advanced AI, if we're a human civilization, we need to be running it with humans. Like at what point you need to have some kind of, first of all, accountability. I think humans discount our ability to think creatively and deal with weird shit, and our adaptiveness and stuff is like just discounted and underrated. I think you should have as many computer systems as you want for help up to a degree, but you got to have like a human sign off at the end of it. The buck must stop with a person.
Well, my question is, whatever happened to ethics? You know, whatever happened to the ethics of people creating these systems? You know, like, our military is saying the future is algorithmic warfare. Like, in my opinion, that's fucking crazy. I don't want to live in, 1984 and the Terminator combined, personally. That's just...
So you mean like an algorithm deciding where to bomb?
Well, it's an algorithm choosing targets.
Yeah.
Right, exactly, yeah. So
it's a tough thing to
because
say
if
that
the algorithm chooses to bomb the hospital, whose fault is it?
Oh my god.
It's a good
Pepper,
question,
it's a tough
isn't it?
thing to say like everything should have a person behind it, because every like little function, it's little functions that become automated often, like, and that can often be a job. It's weird, and me and Dragger can see in our industry, like entire positions go away because of advance in automation, you know?
Oh yeah, for sure. Like secretaries and people who just like transcribe letters and typists and shit.
And people who would animate things by hand, because you don't need to do that shit anymore.
You just
Listen,
like that.
I like animating stuff by hand. Just saying.
Oh, it looks great, but
plug in
there's a
5
lot of
keyframes
workarounds.
and
Is
you're
what
done.
I'm saying.
Do it
Exactly. Like, no, I'm saying like we used to have riggers when you can just get and like bam, you have a script for that now. There was entire rigging departments that are gone now, like stuff like that.
Yeah, and that's people that spent a significant amount of time
Learning,
training for that,
yes.
and doing that, and you
Gone.
can't just, oh, what are you going to do? Do the Obama and go back to school? We have how many how many examples of that didn't work out?
Oh yeah.
If you
Or
Study
was not
theater,
rewarded
see how
properly?
good you'll do.
if you want
Yeah.
to make to connect algorithms and what Zane's talking about, if you want to bend your mind a little bit, you can think of current big old gigantic blockbuster movies. The biggest of the big ones are kind of designed algorithmically in a way.
Oh, big time.
Like through the influence of focus groups, various censor laws they got to like disco around, movies have been set into such a fucking mold now, you know what I mean? We're talking about The Last Supper at the end of this. Compared to watching, like, I just am so Marvel fatigued now. I watched all the big ones and I'm just like, it's done. I did the Thanos shit. That's over. I have no interest in watching more of this, at least for like a decade or something. But like,
well, look what Marvel has to do just so that shit sells in China or wherever, you know?
it's just art by committee. I feel you could also say is art by algorithm.
God.
Because you're taking
yeah,
economic algorithmic inputs and then your movie comes out. If your
Well,
goal,
and who are the people on the committee, even if it's not the algorithm? Who are the people making the decision of what gets made, who gets cast, who approves scripts?
it's not based
It's not
on
artists necessarily
It's talent.
first. It's people with money.
Yeah, it's your
first.
producer, your studio head, what movie even gets made, what script even gets picked. There's just so many layers between.
It's
if
even
your goal,
an automation of that, yeah.
if your goal is only to make money, you're going to set your algorithm to fire and hire people by the minute, like a psycho would do, like a sociopath. We all recognize that as horrific. If the goal is to make money, though, that's logically where it's going to go. It's not that Amazon is uniquely evil. If it wasn't them, it'd be whoever has the most capital to make that shit happen next. It's going to happen if the machine is set up this way. If we live under the current economic system of capitalism, neoliberal capitalism, the kind that is endorsed by both Democrats and Republicans and independents, as far as we can tell, that is what the machine will produce.
It's like that MIT guy that made the psychopath AI. I don't know if you guys remember that.
Ooh.
I don't.
Yeah,
Share.
he fed it a bunch of stuff from Reddit and Twitter, and it became a psychopath. Like legitimized, they psychoanalyzed it and went, it's a psychopath for sure.
Like screaming at people, just like
Yeah, exactly.
antisocial.
But how much of that is because the algorithms that promote what content rises? Like, that's not saying your average Redditor is a psychopath. That's saying the system that Reddit and Twitter reward
Correct.
is psychopathic.
Yeah.
Because capitalism is psychopathic.
Correct.
I think it's like a correlation thing. Like,
It's a correlation, exactly. Yeah,
they
because
didn't set out to make the psycho one, but they did it in pursuit of engagement, like advertisement driving and shit like that. Well, Reddit's
Yeah.
a little bit less like that, but
a little bit.
you know what I'm saying. If you made a Twitter one, it'd be like that, or a Facebook one.
Well,
Reddit's more free.
wasn't there the AI that Microsoft made that they basically turned it into a racist psychopath?
They sent it to
as well?
Twitter, and it was crazy. Yeah,
Yeah, exactly.
they made a bot off of people talking on Twitter, and it was like a raging racist. I mean, it's a computer; it's nothing, but that's the kind of stuff it would spit back out. Imagine if we algorithmically tried to design things for like human benefit. Like if our medical systems algorithms were all about like maximizing health instead of minimize use of resources and maximize procedures that cost a lot of money. Get more full body scans.
The big one that, like, people were saying, IBM Watson was going to revolutionize medicine. And while I have studied algorithms and such, and I am not a PhD AI researcher, I feel like what they were aiming for was incorrect. I'm always going to... If there's ever something a person should do is always, always, always be inherently skeptical when any news outlet mentions AI. Because it's always presented as some kind of weird, mystical, arcane invocation of computers. And that's just not what it is. It's math. It's statistics and math. And a lot of these models that they make are reproducible, which means it's not magic. It means if you feed it the same fucking things, it's going to largely spit out the same data.
Right.
So to me, the best thing someone can do is, what did people end up using computers for? Like, what was the big thing that computers and computation changed? Math and number crunching. It automated a lot of the very heavy time.
You couldn't even have a fucking calculator in math class at first, right?
A computer used to be a
wanna
job. You'd be hired
Yes.
as a computer. The
Yes.
person, would just do math.
And so what computers' best application is helping the human, is really what it boils down to. There are some problem spaces where the computer's answer is better than the human's because the computer runs through every option, whereas the human can't. But if there is no such scenario as running through every option, such as we have taken blood work and have these scans of a human, and because we have not solved the biological question of human, there's no such thing as running through all the options. There's only guesses and suggestions. So, like, Watson proclaimed, Watson will diagnose things. That's a bad goal to me. The goal should be, can Watson give reports to doctors and help a doctor diagnose better? I still want the doctor being the one to do the diagnosing. I don't want an algorithm doing it. We don't have all the data.
And
I
that's
mean,
why,
even if it's just keeping track of symptoms and which medications should not go with, like that kind of shit. Background computations, checking things. Doctor, did you do this? Check yes.
Checklists. Checklists save lives.
Checklists are great.
Photons, you were saying
just
something,
gonna
I
say,
think?
Well, I think that boils down to why we need to not be fighting wars with algorithms. I mean, wars are terrible to begin with, but giving the, kill command to a computer, I think, just like you said, who bombed the hospital? Oh, it was the algorithm. These are having that final human check is the way that we can save humanity, I hope.
Because even then, what are you
it's
designing the
human
algorithm
checks
for?
in the face of algorithms that have stopped nuclear incidents.
Right, exactly.
And it's like we learn nothing from it.
the Russian I'm trying to remember what year it was. It was in the 80s.
Oh,
but
I know what
there
you're
was
talking about. Yeah.
The Russian incident where there was some sort of issue where they totally saw missiles incoming and they were going to launch, and they decided, nope, we're not going to do it. Not doing it. So I mean, we're close enough to the end of the clock here. Let's like dial it back. That's what I got to say.
I mean, that is why our podcast icon that Zanny made is specifically
The Doomsday
That's
Clock.
it. It's the fucking
Doomsday
Doomsday
Clock.
Clock.
We are out of time. Let's outro.
I'm Zanny the Blue.
I'm Pepper Coyote.
I'm Dragor.
And I'm Photonz.
Bye. Bye.